First Contact Protocol. The massive Xilarian warship Sovereign Dawn hung in the void like a predatory sea creature, its gleaming hull stretching nearly 3 kilometers from bow to stern. Surrounding it, 500 other warships formed a perfect defensive hemisphere, energy weapons charged and missile bays open. Grand Admiral Vextor stood on the command bridge, 6 clawed hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at the tactical display. "Status report," he demanded, compound eyes reflecting the holographic projection. "The human vessel will emerge from hyperspace in approximately 2 minutes," Admiral replied his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Kelris. "All ships are in combat readiness." Vextor chittered softly, mandibles clicking in anticipation. The Xilarian Empire had spent decades observing the humans from afar, watching their rapid technological advancement with growing concern. When diplomatic overtures had failed 6 months ago, their intelligence network had detected preparations for war. Now the human fleet was on its way to the Xilarian home system, a direct challenge to their dominance of the Orion Spur. "How many ships are we expecting?" Vextor asked, although he already knew the answer. "Intelligence suggests between 30 and 50 warships, Admiral. Their new Constellation-class battleships are roughly equivalent to our Apex class, but with inferior shielding." The bridge fell silent as the countdown timer reached 0. A small distortion appeared in space, the fabric of reality parting like water. Vextor leaned forward, expecting to see dozens of human warships emerge. Instead, a single vessel appeared. It was sleek and angular, barely 400 meters long, with peculiar blue energy signatures emanating from its hull. The ship bore the insignia of the Earth Defense Force, but it was unlike any human vessel their intelligence had documented. "Admiral," Kelris said, confusion evident in his voice, "I'm only detecting one ship." "Impossible," Vextor replied, mandibles twitching rapidly. "Scan again." "No additional signatures detected, sir. No cloaked vessels, no unusual energy readings that would indicate hidden ships, just the one vessel." The tactical display identified the ship as the EDF Defiance, a previously unknown class. It maintained position just outside the range of the Xilarian fleet's long-range weapons. "We're receiving a transmission," the communications officer announced. "On screen," ordered Vextor. The main display flickered, revealing the human female in a navy blue uniform adorned with silver insignia. She had dark hair pulled back tightly and eyes that betrayed no fear despite facing an armada that could vaporize her ship in seconds. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Earth vessel Defiance," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I request immediate diplomatic communication with the Xilarian High Command." Vextor's compound eyes narrowed. Was this some kind of trick? A diversion while the real human fleet approached from another vector? He signaled his communications officer to mute the transmission. "Full sensor sweep of the system," he ordered. "I want to know if there are any other human ships within 50 light minutes." "Already done, Admiral," Kelris responded. "There's nothing else out there." Vextor unmuted the transmission. "Commander Reyes, this is Grand Admiral Vextor of the Xilarian Empire. Your presence is unexpected. Our intelligence indicated a substantial human fleet was en route to our system." The human's expression remained neutral. "I am the fleet, Admiral." A ripple of clicking mandibles, the Xilarian equivalent of laughter, spread across the bridge before Vextor silenced it with a sharp gesture. "You expect me to believe Earth would send a single vessel to confront the might of the Xilarian Empire?" he asked. "I don't expect belief without evidence," Reyes replied. "Which is why I'm requesting formal diplomatic communication. There are matters we need to discuss that concern the future of both our species." Vextor considered his options. The human ship posed no immediate threat to his fleet. If this was a delaying tactic, he could afford to play along until his intelligence officers determined what the humans were really planning. "You have 1 hour to present your case, Commander," he finally said. "Then I will determine if this matter warrants further attention." "Thank you, Admiral," Reyes replied with a slight inclination of her head. I look forward to our discussion. As the transmission ended, Vextor turned to his senior officers. Opinions. It must be a trap, Kelris insisted. Perhaps they've developed stealth technology that renders their fleet invisible to our sensors. Impossible, countered the science officer. No cloaking field is perfect. We would detect gravitational anomalies, neutrino emissions, something. Maybe they're buying time, suggested another officer, delaying while their real fleet assembles elsewhere. Vextor remained silent, considering the possibilities. None seemed satisfactory. The humans were reckless and unpredictable by Xilarian standards, but they weren't suicidal. Maintain battle readiness, he finally ordered, and conduct a detailed scan of that vessel. I want to know everything about it. Power readings, weapon systems, anything unusual in its construction. As his crew hastened to obey, Vextor studied the image of the lone human ship. Against the backdrop of 500 Xilarian warships, it seemed almost fragile. "What game are you playing, Commander Reyes?" he murmured. 1 hour later, Vextor sat in his private conference chamber. The door iris opened to admit Commander Reyes, flanked by 2 Xilarian security officers. In person, she was shorter than he expected, but carried herself with unmistakable authority. "Commander," Vextor greeted her with a formal gesture. "Admiral." She returned the gesture with surprising accuracy for a human. "I'll be direct," Vextor said as they sat across from each other. "Our scans show your ship is armed, but not heavily. You carry no planet-destroying weapons, no massive arsenal that might threaten my fleet. Yet you face the combined might of the Xilarian Empire without apparent concern. Not all power is measured in firepower, Admiral," Reyes replied. She placed a small device on the table between them. It projected a hologram of the Xilarian home system. 3 days ago, we placed quantum observation devices throughout your system, she explained. They're undetectable by your technology. Vextor's mandibles clicked in agitation. Espionage is hardly a foundation for diplomacy. Not espionage. Insurance, Reyes corrected. She touched the device, and the hologram changed to show technical schematics. These devices can alter the quantum state of matter within a defined radius. A theoretical concept, Vextor dismissed. A demonstration might help you understand. Reyes gestured to her security escort. "May I?" After a reluctant nod from Vextor, one of the officers handed her a metal cup from a nearby table. Reyes placed it beside the holographic device and pressed a sequence. The cup shimmered briefly, then seemed to fold in on itself, collapsing into a fine dust that scattered across the table. Vextor couldn't hide his shock. "What did you do?" "Changed the quantum binding properties of the metal," Reyes explained calmly. "The devices throughout your system can do this on a planetary scale." Silence filled the room as the implication sank in. "This is why one ship is sufficient, Admiral," Reyes continued. "The Defiance doesn't need to outgun your fleet. We simply need to deliver our message. War between our peoples would result in mutual destruction." Vextor stared at the dust that had once been a solid metal cup, his mind racing through the possibilities. If the humans truly possessed this technology, they could destroy Xilarian worlds without firing a single conventional weapon. "The High Command will see you now, Commander Reyes," he said quietly. Back aboard the Defiance, Elena Reyes stood alone in her quarters, staring at her reflection in the small mirror. Dark circles underlined her eyes. The result of too many sleepless nights since receiving her orders. "Computer, playback Earth Command's final transmission," she said. The holographic display flickered to life, showing General Kwan's stern face. "Commander Reyes, the situation has deteriorated beyond peaceful resolution. The Xilarians will not recognize our boundaries, and our intelligence indicates they're preparing for a full-scale invasion. We cannot match their numbers in conventional warfare." She mouthed the words along with the recording, having memorized them over countless viewings. "The Defiance is our only hope. Project Quantum Fold is now operational. You are to proceed alone to the Xilarian homeworld and convinced them that further aggression would be unwise. The fate of humanity rests with you, Commander. Good luck. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. Commander, the Xilarian representatives are awaiting you in the communication chamber, announced Lieutenant Chen. Reyes straightened her uniform. Very well. Let's see if they're willing to listen to reason. The balance of power. The command center of the Sovereign Dawn erupted in chaos following Commander Reyes' demonstration. Grand Admiral Vextor had assembled the Xilarian High Command to witness the human technology firsthand, and no one had been prepared for what they saw. The Defiance had positioned itself near a small uninhabited moon in the outer system. At Reyes' command, a device no larger than a shuttle had detached from the human vessel and moved toward the celestial body. What happened next defied explanation by conventional physics. The moon simply ceased to exist. In its place hovered a swirling vortex of light and matter that collapsed upon itself in seconds, leaving nothing but empty space where a massive object had once been. Analysis. Vextor demanded, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. The science officer's claws trembled as they moved across the control interface. The human device created what appears to be a localized disruption in the quantum field. The moon's atomic structure, it simply lost coherence. Total molecular disintegration. The main screen flickered as Commander Reyes' face appeared. The EDF Defiance carries 8 such devices, she stated calmly, each calibrated to target major Xilarian worlds. We call it Project Quantum Fold. She let the statement hang in the air before continuing. Shall we discuss terms now? The silence in the command center was absolute. The Xilarian officials stared at the screen, their expressions ranging from shock to disbelief to naked fear. War Minister Krillvek was the first to recover. This is a deception, he declared. Some kind of visual trickery. The science officer shook her head, compound eyes fixed on her readouts. The readings are real, Minister. The moon had a mass of approximately 9.4 trillion tons. It's simply gone. High Counselor Zextra turned to Vextor. Is this possible? Could one small ship carry such destructive potential? Before Vextor could answer, Commander Reyes spoke again. I understand your skepticism, she said. In your position, I might feel the same. Perhaps another demonstration would help. No, several voices shouted at once. That won't be necessary, said Zextra, regaining his composure. We've seen enough. Reyes nodded. The choice before you is simple. The Xilarian Empire can continue its planned aggression against human worlds, in which case we will be forced to deploy our quantum fold devices, or we can establish new terms for peaceful coexistence. You would destroy yourselves as well, said Krillvik. Such weapons would create chain reactions affecting nearby systems, including your own colonies. A slight smile appeared on Reyes' face. We've calculated those risks, War Minister. Have you? When the transmission ended, Lieutenant Chen approached Commander Reyes on the bridge of the Defiance. They're frightened, he observed quietly. Good, Reyes replied. Fear can be a powerful motivator for peace. The device worked better than expected, said Dr. Novak, the project's lead scientist, joining them. The quantum collapse was complete. Not even dust remained. Reyes nodded. And the other 7 devices? Novak hesitated. Commander, as you know, we only have 2 functional prototypes. The others are empty shells. The Xilarians don't need to know that, Reyes said quietly. Back in the Xilarian Command Center, a heated debate was underway. We should strike now, before they can deploy more of these weapons, insisted Krillvik. Our combined fleet can destroy 1 ship, no matter how advanced, and risk 8 of our worlds, countered Commerce Minister Siltar. The outer colonies aren't worth such a price. If they even have 8 devices, said Krillvik, this could be a bluff. Do you want to take that chance? Asked Zextra. Even 1 such device deployed against our homeworld would be catastrophic. Admiral Vextor had been quiet, studying the sensor data from the demonstration. He looked up, There's something else we should consider. The energy readings from the human ship during the demonstration were unusual. Explain, demanded Zextra. The power surge was massive, yes, but brief. And immediately afterward, the ship's energy levels dropped significantly. It's as if... He paused. As if what, Admiral? Zextra prompted. As if the deployment taxed their systems severely. They may need time to recover before they could use another device. Krillvek's eyes brightened. Then we attack now, while they're vulnerable. Or, said Zextra, we use this time to negotiate. Find out what they truly want. I agree with the High Counselor, said Vexter. We should at least hear their terms. Krillvek's mandibles clicked in derision. Since when does the mighty Xilarian Empire bow to threats from lesser species? Since that lesser species demonstrated the ability to destroy our worlds, Zextra replied firmly. Meanwhile, on the Defiance, Commander Reyes had assembled her senior staff in the briefing room. The Xilarians have agreed to formal negotiations, she announced. But there's something you need to know. The officers exchanged glances. Project Quantum Fold isn't just a defensive technology, Reyes continued. It's the result of decades of research into quantum manipulation. If deployed in an inhabited system, it would create a cascade effect that could potentially destabilize space-time throughout the entire sector. Shocked silence followed her words. So if we use it, Dr. Novak began, we might save Earth from invasion, but at the cost of unknown consequences to the fabric of space itself. Precisely, Reyes confirmed. It's a last resort that we cannot actually resort to. Then in the negotiations, Lieutenant Chen started. We bluff, Reyes said simply. We convince the Xilarians that we can and will use this weapon if pushed, while doing everything in our power to ensure we never have to. A bluff? Security Chief Rivera looked skeptical. Against beings who have mastered interstellar travel and warfare for thousands of years. Precisely because they have mastered warfare, Reyes replied. They understand mutually assured destruction. They'll believe we would use such a weapon because it's what they would do in our position. And if they call our bluff, asked Chen. Reyes' expression hardened. Then humanity will be remembered as a species that faced extinction with dignity. But I don't intend to let that happen. The negotiations lasted 3 days. Commander Reyes faced the full Xilarian High Command, presenting Earth's terms with unwavering confidence. Behind closed doors, the Xilarians argued bitterly among themselves, but the memory of the vanished moon loomed large in their deliberations. On the 4th day, a treaty was signed. The Xilarian Empire would recognize Earth's sovereignty and territorial claims. A demilitarized zone would be established between their territories. Trade agreements would be negotiated separately, once the immediate crisis had passed. As Reyes prepared to depart the Xilarian system, Grand Admiral Vextor requested a private word. There's something I've been wondering, Commander, he said, studying her with his compound eyes. Our analysis of your demonstration revealed something curious. The quantum device created a permanent distortion in space-time, small but measurable. If such a weapon were used on an inhabited world, the effects would be catastrophic not just for us, but potentially for all nearby systems, including your own. Reyes' expression remained neutral. It makes me wonder, Vextor continued, would humans truly deploy a weapon that could harm not only their enemies, but potentially themselves? That seems contrary to the survival instinct. Perhaps you misunderstand humans, Admiral, Reyes replied. Throughout our history, we've been willing to risk everything to protect what matters to us. Sometimes, the most effective deterrent is one so terrible that no one, not even its creator, wants to use it. Vextor's mandibles clicked softly, a fascinating philosophy. And an effective one, it seems. When the Defiance returned to Earth orbit 2 weeks later, Commander Reyes was summoned immediately to Earth Defense Force headquarters. General Quan was waiting for her, along with the Secretary of Defense and 3 other officials she didn't recognize. Commander Reyes, General Quan greeted her. Congratulations on a successful mission. The treaty with the Excelarians has already been ratified by the Earth Council. Thank you, sir, Rise replied. There's just one matter we'd like to clarify, the secretary said, sliding a data tablet across the table. According to your report, you informed the Excelarians that we possess 8 quantum fold devices, but Project Quantum Fold only produced 2 functional prototypes. That's correct, sir, Rise confirmed. The other 6 were empty shells. A bluff, then, observed one of the unnamed officials. A calculated risk, Rise corrected. The Excelarians understand power. They respect strength. If we had revealed our true capabilities, the negotiations would have failed before they began. And if they had called your bluff? Asked the secretary. Rise met his gaze steadily. Then I would have used the 2 devices we did have to ensure that the Excelarians remembered humanity, even if we weren't around to remind them. The officials exchanged glances. Finally, General Quan spoke. It seems we chose the right person for this mission, Commander. Your actions have secured peace, not through overwhelming force, but through understanding our adversary, and using that knowledge to find common ground. Sometimes, Rice said, the greatest strength comes not from having the largest army, but from changing the rules of engagement entirely. As she left the meeting, Rice looked out the window at the peaceful earth below. The Excelarians had come expecting to face a fleet and found a single ship instead. They had prepared for conventional warfare and encountered a weapon that defied conventional physics. But most importantly, they had expected to meet an enemy undiscovered. Instead, a species determined to find another way forward. One ship had been enough, not because of its firepower, but because of the message it carried. In the vastness of space, survival depends not on who has the biggest guns, but on who has the wisdom to know when not to use them.